Hey everyone. Today we will be unmasking digital deception with advanced bot detection. I'm Dennis Weiss, CEO and co-founder of IPQS, joined by my teammate and great friend Shay Craft, head of our solution engineering here at IPQS. Shay, say hey.
What's going on, everyone? Excited to be here.
All right, so let's dive right in. We're seeing digital impersonation and bot attacks evolve at lightning speed. People often ask, how do bots create fake accounts or take over real ones? Well, they use layered techniques. First, they spoof browser signatures to appear as a brand new user and evade returning user detection. Next, they use residential proxies, which are IPs from home internet providers like Comcast or Time Warner, so they look legit instead of some noisy data center or VPN. To scale 24/7, they'll run everything on virtual machines in the cloud, creating or hijacking accounts over and over. They typically rely on disposable emails, VoIP phone numbers, and cheap CAPTCHA solving services. It costs around $3 for 1,000 CAPTCHA solves. In short, they test your platform, see what blocks them, and then automate a way around it, all to pose as real users and slip under the radar. IT Pro stated that $186 billion $186 billion in losses are incurred each year because of bots. These attacks include credential stuffing, fake account creation, data scraping, and more. All right, so we have a quick poll already, and we want to know, what is your company using for bot protection? It should pop up here for y'all.
A lot of good answers coming through.
A few don't have anything, so we'll definitely want to make sure you pay attention here. So what are the key strategies to eliminate bots? Well, using tools that are invisible to the user bridges two distinctive gaps in the ecosystem. One, how do I stop fraud? And two, how do I retain a smooth and frictionless identity flow for my users? It's important to use an API-first approach that is invisible to both good and bad users. At IPQS, our tools are designed to detect every layer of the attack, from web automation, residential proxies, disposable email addresses, and even high-risk phone numbers. Unlike a typical CAPTCHA solution, we can detect it all without the malicious users even knowing or seeing what's going on. If you're already a user of IPQS and you know that a frictionless interaction with our APIs is critical. And through every part of your flow, we do real-time background profiling in milliseconds to return if the user is good or bad. There is no need for anyone to do a challenge since we're already looking at over 500 data points. Because of this, we'll even know if that specific user action should even be occurring. Fighting bots is no longer a one-stop trigger. You must be using a multi-layer approach to effectively combat bots. Every part of your identity flow should be a checkpoint sequence calling APIs to verify if their device fingerprint is good or bad, if their IP is a proxy or not, and if they have a valid good email address or phone number. With a detection rate of 99.5%, it is safe to say that if any of these are flagged, then is most likely a suspicious user. The advantages of this are that it allows you to block returning bad users and make the experience for good ones more seamless. This also means it becomes unprofitable for an attacker to create abuse vectors on your platform, as it shrinks the probability of landing a successful account, takeover, or creating bot accounts at scale. Remember, if you make it expensive for an attacker, you will see attacks drop off. And while some attackers are in it for the fun, most are looking for financial gain. So that multi-level approach really will deter them from being able to do the attacks. But I think that's enough for me right now. I'm going to hand this over to Shay.
Okay, so the first one is residential proxies. This is a type of anonymizer where these compromised IP addresses, they're widely available on marketplaces and just as easily accessible as commercial VPN IPs. The key difference with these is that they'll blend in with regular traffic, and they're much harder or nearly impossible for other IP vendors to detect. The second component is browser automation. So fraudsters will use scripting frameworks like Selenium or Puppeteer to automate navigating a site and inputting data. They can also make it appear like a new and unique user, generate a new browser session, sometimes loading in cookies that have been farmed or not. We're not really leaving a trace of shared browsing or environment patterns. So these scripts, they're capable of doing it all from filling out forms, logging into accounts, transacting. But it's really not just enough to simply automate your attacks. You have to make it believable. Sophisticated fraudsters, they can emulate random mouse movements, keyboard mistakes, and control the pace of a bot, making its behavior identical to somebody like you or me. And so the conventional thought process there is, it used to be the case that, oh, we'll just throw up a CAPTCHA, right? But nowadays, with hybrid human and AI solving services, those can be completed within seconds for pennies on the dollar, right? And like Dennis said earlier, I think it was like what, $3 for 1,000 solves, which is just crazy.
Yeah, it
Probably
depends
less
on the
than.
captcha for sure, but I mean, it's pretty cheap to bypass the captcha nowadays.
Yeah. Um, but cool. So once you have those first three components in place, you have your, well, I guess you have your target, you have your residential proxy provider, you have browser automation, and then you've got that behavior emulation down. Um, you have a well-defined process, and really the only thing left to do is scale. So we live in an era where we don't need to manage physical devices anymore. A fraudster can just go to a cloud hosting provider. They can take the script and then replicate it across hundreds of thousands of virtual machines within minutes. So the combination of all of these things is what leads to that $186 billion loss figure Dennis mentioned earlier that we see every single year. So let's get into how IPQS handled identifying attacks like the one shown earlier in a frictionless way. We can consider each of these tools as that layer in your fraud prevention system. So the first one is IP. Our IP reputation tool will identify a number of fields. We'll give you geolocation information, contextual data like who manages the IP or connection type. Is it a data center, mobile education like universities? Or is it a residential connection? Then we also offer threat analysis information, such as is there any anonymizer activity associated with this IP? So proxy, VPN, Tor, is there bot activity that we see? And overall, if the IP address is being used for fraud and malicious activity, at what velocity, right? So here we just have another example on IPs, how we identify something like a commercial VPN provider, maybe less. This is something that you would see maybe less for automated attacks, but more people that are just looking to mask their true location, their IP, and identity. So moving on to the next layer, device. I mean, with IP, that's always going to be present in instances of digital fraud. There's always also going to be a device. So how IPQS handles device fingerprinting is to script that's placed on a web page or a mobile app. When that's loaded, we're capturing the hardware and software configuration of a user's device. We're pulling that back. We're issuing it a unique ID identifier to see its behavior across the network. And then also looking for any sort of anomalies that would point to emulation, bot activity, and really just identifying their intent based on the metadata around this device. And the reason why that's important is, if you look at just a network, the activity at the IP level, you're going to run into an inherent problem of false positives. Take, for example, a university, you have 1,000 users on it and there's 5 bad users. Those 5 bad users can sort of ruin the reputation of that IP address for the other 995 users, right? And so really you want to be interrogating each user individually based on their device, treating them as distinct people. And let me hop back a couple slides really quickly. We offer this fraud score. This is common across all of our tools. You're going to see the value equal to or above 90, we consider our high risk threshold. So kind of a simple number to look at a high level and say, is this good or bad? But we also identify and give you granular reasons as to why we dispositioned this device the way that we did. So, examples would include, they're spoofing their location. This is a bot, definitively, or if they're not using any sort of emulation techniques, we'd see them committing abuse across our network. So maybe you're not the first person to see this abusive device. Somebody else within our network has seen that, and we're able to capture that before they're even able to, commit fraud within your business or your platform. And so all of that, along with that, we're able to kind of stop the problem that I identified earlier with scale, right? We can identify when these users are using virtual machines, and kind of pairing that up with the other information. We know that, if they're pretending to be a Windows user on a Mac OS, we're going to be able to identify that discrepancy and then push that back to you. So in the exploit, we used kind of this synthetically generated Gmail address. And so with emails, just another layer in that fraud prevention system. With emails, we're doing 3 checks. We're doing a validation one. We're looking at the email address. Is the domain registered to somebody? Is there a valid mail server attached to that? What does deliverability look like? But we're going to go a step beyond that and then go into the negative indicators we see associated with an email address. So things like, is this associated with a disposable service, or have we seen it committing abuse or fraudulent transactions across our network before? All of that would be reported back to you. But in an instance like we had in our exploit, this is something where I think IPQS provides a unique value prop where we're going over validation, we're going over negative indicators, but this was just newly generated for the sole purpose of committing fraud against your platform. So, it's going to pass those first 2 checks. So we're going to look at the positive activity associated with that email address, right? Are they legitimately registering accounts on other platforms, or are there healthy transactions associated with that email address? And then things like the approximate age of the email address. If this is the first time we've seen it, that's probably something that you want to handle or treat that event a little bit differently. And we have another layer, right? We treat phone in a similar way. You have your validation check. Is this valid for that country? Is it registered or disconnected? And some contextual information like what's the line type? Is this a landline or wireless? But we can also identify, the usage of anonymizers, right? So VoIPs are a common problem we see, and we can identify those with a very high accuracy, and kind of empower you to have that information around anonymizer usage on phone numbers. And then the last layer that I'll sort of talk about is our password leak detection. So it's not just enough for your business to have a good password policy nowadays. You can have your 8 characters and special random $signs, @ symbols, whatever. But that's not going to stop a user from putting in the same password that they use everywhere else, right? And so on the dark net, there's data forums where you can go and buy millions of leaked credentials. And as part of this sort of automated attack, structure, we see that password spraying or credential stuffing attack where, they're just kind of siphoning through all of these credentials and seeing what hits. And so we'd be able to identify, whether or not on registration, is this a good password that hasn't been leaked before? You're kind of protecting the user and you're protecting your organization from being liable for any losses. And so, taking a step back, right, we have all of these layers. And when you combine them all together, you have a very holistic view of this event, this digital event. You know, you're always going to have that IP, the email, or device. And then you'll have an email and phone number sometimes. And you have all of these records and vectors to view this singular individual and make intelligent, informed decisions that protect your bottom line. Um, and so you may be asking yourself, you know, hey, where are you getting this data from? Where's that coming from? Um, we don't buy it. We generate it in-house. 10,000 plus digital properties on the clear and dark net. Some of these are residential proxy marketplaces or fake bank pages, or a mix of real businesses that we work with to see real-time fraud activity. And really, Dennis loves talking about the honeypots, so I'm gonna throw it over to him.
Yeah, I mean, like Shay said, we love to build our own honeypots. So we do have a bunch of web properties out there. We actually even have our own distillery. So we kind of want to feel how merchants are feeling. So I'm not sure if you can see this, but these are one of the spirits that we distill in Michigan in a real life brick and mortar business. And what's cool about it is we have a website attached to that with the store on it, and we're seeing fraud in the e-commerce space. We open it up to bot attacks, credit card testing, all that kind of stuff. We have a coffee roastery where we also see kind of fraud like that. And recently we closed a pretty big deal with a ticketing company, and we actually ended up buying a soccer team. So we have a real life soccer team where we try to get fraudsters to buy, resell tickets. And it's very interesting to be involved in the space and see like what our customers, what our merchants are dealing with on a real basis. I do see some question and answers. If everyone can check those out, we are trying to answer those in real time and writing the response there so you can all see it. But the honeypot threat network, it started about 10 years ago now. I had a previous company where I was in the advertising space, and back then we were trying to catch fraud, fake media buys, bots signing up for forms, things like that. And we realized all the solutions that were out there weren't solving the issue for us. So we realized the data was really the key. So we looked at the basics back then: email, phone, IP, all of these gave us good signals. Then we got into device fingerprinting and we brought it all together. What I like to say is we like to perform the onion theory at IPQS. And what is the onion theory? So where our competitors usually have one layer, say like IP reputation, IP blacklist, or phone validation, things like that, IPQS likes to cut the onion in half, and we have all of those layers. So in the end, the only ones crying are the fraudsters, and that's the IPQS onion theory. But anything else you got there, Shay, on the honeypot you like to add? I think it's something that sets us apart and lets us see data that no one else gets to see on a daily basis.
Yeah, man. That's unique data, kind of proprietary to us. So nobody else is going to have that, and that's pretty valuable.
Yeah, and we do like to listen to our customers and see like what kind of fraud issues they're running into. So once they're our customer, we actually have teams that we build out that look for specific fraud niches and things happening in specific verticals, which is nice because now we have a bunch of ticketing companies, we have a lot of travel companies using us, so it really helps us expand and understand the fraud. And we even love to make custom tools for customers. We just did a whole custom SMS verification flow that uses device fingerprinting. We send them SMS out, and it's a really awesome structure that's been working. In fact, that company told me about 2 weeks into it that they saved $3 million because of the cost we were able to cut for them and stopping all the fraud. But to close the session, I mean, I do feel like IPQS, we are leaders in the fraud space. I mean, we have over 3,500 happy customers. We support SMB to huge enterprise. And, at the end of the day, I had to live fraud to become a fraud fighter. And it's been working out really well for us and our customers because of that data, the honeypots threat network that we built, the consortium of data that we get from our customers, and just listening to our customers. So yeah, I mean, we're doing 14,000 abuse reports per second, which is a lot of incoming data that no one else is seeing. So to take away and summarize, I mean, to fight a bot, you have to understand, if you make it more expensive for them, it's going to be a lot harder for them to want to attack you and create new bot accounts or do account takeover and things like that. So I leave you with that. Shay, is there anything else you'd like to add there at the end?
Uh, No, nothing else from me. I mean, I would hope that I'm actually, yes, I'm curious to know if you had any sort of specific questions or want to do a sort of fraud system workshop. You know, I'm the head of solutions. I like hearing about unique problems, and I would love to chat with any sort of attendees that have interesting problems to solve. Yeah.
Yeah, to add on to that, so we do have a team of security researchers that will go and build an exploit, and they'll actually show you exactly where you have gaps. And we love doing that for customers. And even if you don't become a customer, it's great to just, utilize companies that are willing to work on your behalf. So send it over, send it in. We will follow up with an email, obviously, from everyone that attended. So feel free to respond. Cool. I think that's all from us. If you all want to throw in some more questions, or you can send us an email after we reach out after, that'd be great as well. Would love to go one-on-one. If anyone goes to any trade shows, I try to make them to them all. MRC, Identiverse, Authenticate. If you go into the MRC, we did host a pretty awesome party last year, and we'll be doing that again at Jewel Nightclub. So love to see all your faces, and let's have a drink together, maybe from the distillery, maybe from the coffee roastery. Maybe we go to a soccer game together, but we're in it to win it. So let's go. Cool.
Good stuff. All right. Oh, there we go. I didn't go all the way. Here's some contact information if you guys are interested in connecting.
So I see. All right. I think we'll leave it at that. And if any other questions come in, we'll definitely send out an email. But we appreciate you all. Thank you so much. And we'll see you soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.